sorry. I don't have the brains.
You know what? That is 100% right. Resident Evil 6 is Flamash's favorite game. What is happening?
Backlash?
Oh,
Backlash.
you fucker.
At
Well done.
Backlash.
Well done.
At Backlash.
How are we all getting on? Steam train,
At
ready?
Backlash.
NI guy, welcome on, folks. What is the crack?
Backlash.
Fuck, this
Do it,
goes on
lady.
far too long. You were waiting for it, Sierra. What is happening?
At Backlash. At
You
Backlash.
son- I bet you're hovering over that button for weeks.
Backlash.
For weeks.
Backlash.
I want to reduce the time on it, but I think it's still amazing the fact that the time takes so long. But what is the story? How is everybody getting on? It's hump day. Wednesday is over and done with, so it's essentially the weekend now, which is good. If any's are in the Discord, you've probably seen the post earlier where I was talking about how fucking feeling pure burnt out at the moment. So having this proper reset and getting stuck on again now. But I was going to do Resident Evil 2 tonight, speedrun, but as much as I love it, it's very, very, like, concentration based, kind of, you have to kind of get locked in on it, so I thought, no, I'm loving Pragmata, I'm going to play Pragmata instead. Thank you very much for checking in as well, folks. These are fucking flying. Look at these boys are flying through. A reset always helps. I think so, and it's something a lot of people, especially when you do stream, it fucking hits you. and you just feel exhausted with it.
Sorry, we're going
Thank you very much,
streaking
game. I don't know how chill the game is,
and
but
into the
I like the
gymnasium.
vibe of the
Come
game,
on,
and I love the
everybody!
story of the game, and I'm excited to see where it's going, so I'm going to enjoy that. But thank you very much, folks, for coming on early as well. Thank you for the check-ins. These are all freaking awesome. Sierra, NI Guy, Blamash, Ready, Steam Train, coming on with a blitz as per. But yeah, we're going to get stuck into the game now as well, because I don't actually... I know this game isn't as long as maybe other ones that we've played, but excuse me if my game apparently isn't showing for some unknown reason. Oh, there it is. Excuse me if my kind of cadence and mood is a bit quieter tonight. Yeah, the hacking part is less chill. The chemistry between... Yeah, I did a little bit offline. I didn't do any of the main storyline or anything, but I did a lot. I went back to some of the previous levels to get some of the side stuff, and it's just fucking adorable. And I found some extra items, and then she drew me a picture. It's class. This is the part... feel okay, push it through. Yeah, not grand. Look, we completed a room, and this is fucking awesome. Got a picture drawn and everything. This is class. I'm going to have to use the controls again. I can't believe in your ability to drag a game out. You believe in my ability to... I appreciate that, thank you. Monster Hunter? Is that what you're thinking? More Monster Hunter? I would have my mods and all picked. The Pterado. But I think in my own time, I'm going to go back to the previous levels and get the unlockables and stuff. Because they are worth collecting. They are pretty cool. And it's good seeing the character interaction because of it and stuff as well, which I'm quite liking. So Mechana Monster here as well. Well, not Mechana Monster, McBlossom Monster now.
You know where we can find this 8 character?
I don't.
Nope.
Well,
Nope, she doesn't know.
guess
Right,
we'll
buttons,
figure it out
buttons.
anyway.
Oh, we're proper outside now. Right, okay.
Wow.
Not bad.
Fucking hell, look at that.
You can almost smell the nature.
Smell the nature. Monster in a tall glass. We are fancy. We are. I can't be drinking from the can. I'm not some sort of animal.
This place took some serious funding. I better pay up when I get back.
Upgrade components. Akshu, there he is. Welcome back, sir. We'll be with you shortly. Getting some shit done. Good to see your face hug. You'll be hugging my face. I'm really enjoying Pragmata. I am loving this game. Very, very good. Birds!
Look, there were other animals here too.
You. Fuck. There's wee hook. He was playing some Halo last night and the man was on his absolute element. Cleo, no, there's no treats for you. Nobody wants to give you treats, so there's no treats. None for Cleo. McKen, Spouchy, what is happening? Yeah, there's a time and place when you can do with the tail glass. Tail glass. By the end, I just did want... You wanted at the end, right? Okay.
Remember anything
I was under the impression it wasn't as long of a game, or did you go for all the collectibles as well? Is that what the problem was?
But that's about it.
Not every day you can meet someone who can talk using it.
Thank you for checking in, folks.
Pretty strange.
Star Caller?
Not like we got a lot of leads.
Star Talker, more like.
Seeing how we can't be sure.
Ooh, can I go over here? I was half expecting that to put me through the fucking...
In person.
I don't think I'm supposed to go up this way. I was expecting to put me through the... collision. Our treats aren't available. No treats for Cleo. Cleo, they all hate you. They told me that they don't love you, and that's why you're getting no treats, and... Oh my god, she's crying. I didn't know a dog could cry, but she's crying now, and she's so sad. Why is she so sad? Still enjoyed it, but... Oh, what was that noise? Oh, sir. Oh, that's not the button. Fuck. Right, okay.
Overdrive protocol. On standby.
Right, okay. I completely forgot the button to hack. Still enjoyed it, but I must do everything, and the main story is enough. Right, okay. No, that's fine. It's like... See as well, Hook was chatting about last night. See, whenever you're playing a game for the first time, fucking normal mode is fine.
Heck with that. So much for the beauty of nature.
This place is warming up.
Get some.
Get some. Oh, it's your head?
Be careful.
Oh, fuck, right, okay.
Here it comes again.
Right on.
There we go. I'm going to explore over this way as well, because I did see there was more stuff. Oh, no, maybe there's not more stuff. Okay, maybe there's not more stuff. Maybe I exaggerated and lied about it. Yeah, I feel nowadays people overlook the normal run. Yeah, that's what I was chatting about. Yeah, so Hook was on about last night, and people are like, oh, you gotta play it in hard mode. No, 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 no. First time you play a game, play it in easy mode. Play it in normal. Enjoy the story of the game. If you want to go back, if you enjoy it, you want to go back and do a challenge run later on, work away. Or just play Dark Souls, where there is no actual difficulty and everything is hard mode.
Abnormal plant growth detected. Please initiate.
But I would do that. I would play a game in normal mode, like first go. And even if you look at the likes of Hook, he was playing Halo. It's a game that he is, and it's campaign evolved, so it's essentially combat evolved. He knows that game through and through, and he just played it through normal the first go just to enjoy it. You know, there's no need to go on and just torture yourself, because you end up not liking the game then at that point, or getting frustrated.
Damn.
Yeah.
Edis is playing games with us again.
That tree was getting smaller, but then Edis got in the way.
See, Cleo, the treat was getting smaller.
Should we take a break?
No, no, we're good, kid. We're good. She's just sitting staring at me. I can feel her eyes digging into me. Digging into me. Cleo, it has been redeemed, so you're okay now. You're okay, you're fine.
No.
Oh my god.
What do you
The
say?
sadness in her face.
No. No. I'm not going to give you
One
a treat
treat,
if you call me
please.
that.
Lost count of
What do
how
you
many
say?
ones you got. And that's, you're experiencing that story and you're just loving the gameplay of that game. That's perfectly fine as well. There's loads of games as well I just don't play in any more difficult modes than normal because, look at our ears. Because it's, I fear it's going to ruin it. Poor dog's fading away as she may hold. There we go. She got a retreat. Seriously, I've sat and fixed that camera so it would catch you perfectly and you just move your head out of the way. No, the wee doggy is not fading away. Me and Cleo are going to be getting out and we're both going to shed some pounds. So where's the compensate for both our treats?
You're here. Thank you. You're close now. Just take the central lift and I'm there.
She's beautiful. She's a baby.
What are we supposed
She's
to
a
do about
princess.
This big old tree in the way.
Reboot the 2 limb regulators, one in each area, and the tree here should dissipate.
Okay. I don't really know what they want me to do, but I'm just
Okay.
going to press the buttons and hope
Hang in
for the
there.
best.
There's got to be another way.
There's got to be another way. Right, am I climbing this? Climbing this shit then? That looks climbable. Yeah, up there. Ooh, right, okay, I have to try. Right, okay. There we go. It doesn't lend itself to this type of platforming very much, to be fair. Oh, maybe I wasn't supposed to come up here, maybe this is a secret. Right, okay.
I wonder what...
I got a packet of shortbread staring at me. They're all babies, they are all babies. Parkour. Why aren't they in a guy? I'm judging you fiercely. Why are they not in your belly? You should eat them now. Eat them all with a nice wee cup of tea.
Economy. That's a Japan thing, I think.
Okay, this was not the way I was supposed to go.
Bunch of people under a cherry tree having a good old time.
Whoa, that sounds like fun.
Right. Oh, right, okay, there's different rooms.
Be careful, Hugh.
Well, I'm trying.
Well, I'm trying. Yeah, I love a good Percy pig. Ooh, Percy pig.
Jump, Hugh. Override protocol at the ready. Yeah. Get ready.
Guess it's my turn.
Right, y'all can just...
You sure
Trying to kill me?
right now?
May, what is happening? Hello, Leoric in chat. Hope everyone's doing well. Welcome. And May, what is the story? I had to test them for poison. My niece... Yeah, you have to test all the cookies for poison. This is true. This is true. Anybody not following me, please do so as well. I know you all probably are, but she is an absolute legend. Right. Okay. Let's go. No! Sir. Sir. No. This room is very intense.
Back off!
No! Stop it. Oh, I have my special ability. I forgot about my ability. Hey, thank you very much for the sub. Did that alert pop up? Better? Damn, one of this is bad enough, but 3 is wild. I know. Hey, I appreciate it, thank you. That is so sound of you. You're a good egg. Good egg! Right, we're sucking diesel now, sir. We're sucking diesel now. Let's go. If I can get it down to 1, I'll be doing okay. Fine and dandy, just like Candy. Perfect. I'm a Sir Candy Kinnick person as well. Love like a horrible fantastic or something that's about Sir. Shit. Gonna get me. Thank you for checking on as well, folks. I sat for the last hour fixing the Be Right Back was because I realised that my move away from OneDrive was what was causing it to freeze because it couldn't actually find the game art. And everything in the background was still working, but the game art was not, and that's what the problem was. Love me a milk bottle. Oh, right, the sweets. Right, okay, I get you. But how is everybody's Wednesday going? Bum. No, I don't want to read words. If I wanted to read words, I would have worn my glasses.
If we want to continue.
No, I'm going to turn my volume up a wee bit because I think I'm missing some of the redeems and stuff coming in because it's very, very low. Volume. It's annoying as well because I have these headsets. I kind of have to go into the headset software to turn my volume up. Yeah, it should be a lot better. There we go. That's a lot better. Doing grand. The fate of my car decided today. Getting it scrapped, a new car required. Ooh, what happened to the car? I didn't even know. I know you were doing up your garage. You're putting it, making it into like an office, but I didn't hear about the car. Do you want me to fix it? I know nothing about how to fix cars, but I could probably YouTube it and we'll be grand. We'll fix it together. We'll open our own mechanics. Oh, fuck this. Oh, they're a little bit faster. They might shoot. What? These are fast boys. Right, okay. Right, okay, we're grand. They're distracting the kid. I said previously I didn't want the decoy one, but now I fucking do. Decoy. Yeah, move that big boy in the back as well. Is he pelting his own mate? If he is, fuck him. Right, sir, you are going down. Got him. Oh, fuck, no, he got me. There we go. Whew. Right, okay, that was a bit intense. Oh, God. Timing belt went and wrecked the engine. Oh, fuck, right, okay, yeah, they'll just tear through it once that rips. Been using the day to chill, got woke at 9 AM yesterday to help with the garden, had to shovel sand into a wheelbarrow, getting up the angled driveway and help pour concrete, and then put a lot of rocks. Ooh, very nice. Getting the garden done. I was meant to do it the other way today, and I didn't, and now it's fucking raining again. And it's kind of my own fault. So it's going to be a lot worse whenever I do have to do it.
I'm sure both will have stuff we can use.
Ooh, rain. Nah, no. Bad rain. Bad rain. Does this tell me anything? If this is where I am, there's Area A and Area B. It doesn't tell me fucking anything, does it? Oh. One crusher, 2 and pet. Oh, so it actually tells me who's on each room. Right, okay. Maybe this one's a nice one. But well, this is less. This is less. We'll do this. Sweet.
No turning back now.
Yeah, and the garage update window beam went in yesterday and being installed tomorrow. Fine, well set with French doors. Oh, very nice, Tomahawk. Very nice. Oh, there's a fucking laser.
Here it comes! Look out!
Oh, don't look at that. Oh, I'm going to have to keep moving. Shit. Right, okay. I did not pick the right room.
Now it's my turn.
Here it comes! Look out!
Sir, would you die? There we go. There we go. Oh, damn. Oh, very nice. Very nice, man. Oh, God.
Wow! More land!
Right. Me need more juice. Me need more juice. Oh, God. Right, there we go. All the energy, you can just feel it flowing on.
Might be some good stuff in there.
If you're up for the challenge.
I'm gonna have to do it now, aren't I? Nope, nope. Weapons. Oh, so it can only go in that one slot. Shit. Right, okay. I don't know if I want to go down here. Or, oh, I can't go out the door. Stream it. Oh, maybe not. Nah. Nah, maybe not. Diana's calling you out. She is. She's calling me on my shit.
Is this the right way?
Guess we'll find out.
How would I know? I've never been here. Oh, it's another one of these wee fucking rooms. Right, okay, let's go. Sharks with frickin' lasers.
If only we had a unit that could delete snow. Sensors, yeah. Jump to. I got him.
Shooty, 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 shooty. Oh god, that's a bad room. It is a bad room, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Phew.
The reload is so long in these weapons. Who the fuck's he attacking? Right, he's dead. Right, one down. Pick up that for the multiples.
Get some!
Be
Get
careful.
some!
Jump to.
Right, now it's just you, buddy. Me and you.
Blinking the enemy. Yeah.
I don't know what the point of the lasers. Is that supposed to stop me like, flying away?
Incoming.
I'm too short. It's not going to get me.
Now it's
Oh, 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 oh. I think the laser suit... Oh, right, okay. I haven't really been using the hover, to be fair.
Right on.
Move, you.
Maybe I should be using the hover more then. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'm missing out on a vital mechanic there.
All these units, you. I'm glad.
Charge
In this
piercer.
way.
Oh, I've just picked up the same gun I had. Oh, right, okay. Oh, looks like a fun room. This looks like a fun
This will
room.
turn the bots against us.
Just leave me there.
Please remove them from the premises.
It's got a high energy capacitator.
What the heck was that?
It means its attacks might be bigger.
Well, why didn't you say that earlier?
Overdrive protocol on standby. Get back.
Right, okay.
Be careful.
I don't have much of a hover. Looks like Mr. Handy with legs. Remember to accept the truth. Ah, that is true. But the fact that it gave me an ability to turn enemies against a killer makes me feel like there's going to be more than one here. Oh, 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 okay, okay.
I owe you.
Move, you. Don't go inside the circle.
Oh, 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 don't look up, don't look up, don't look up.
How you like this?
I don't think it likes it very much, I don't think. You know, I watched so much gameplay and streams of this that I still don't know the story beats. Ah, see, I knew there'd be more. Fucking knew.
This laser's blowing up. Be careful.
Right, if I can grip these all together. That didn't sound right.
Leave it to me.
It makes you want to play Horizon? Oh, just because of the way the enemies are? Keep forgetting to shoot the weak spots. Right, okay, one more. That's fine and dandy. Oh fuck, he kept going. That didn't even stun him. Right, okay, there we go, there we go, there we go. Nicely done. Right, okay. We steal all this stuff? Yes.
We can use this as a distraction.
Cool. Yeah, all the robots and yeah, true. Horizon is a game I've started about 12 times and never finished. And it's nothing bad about the game. It's just... I don't want to continue on if it's going to be... Oh, new weapon. The sniper pulse carbine. Ooh, very nice. Yes, we shall take this. We shall take this. And something bad about the game, it's more so... I don't know why, I get so far in it and then just stop. Ooh, look at the deers. I'll start my own playthrough, but chickened out in my oh, right, okay.
Now we got deer.
They look like family.
These are expensive to make.
Oh,
These
yeah,
guys were so
lots of
dear.
fun.
So their DNA
Kinda looks
is
like
50%
Ammo
match.
from Star Wars with that hat. Yeah,
A
true.
family isn't just what's in your DNA.
It isn't?
Not at all. I mean, I was adopted.
Adopted?
Yeah. when a family takes you in as their own.
Right,
Even though
okay.
we don't share the same DNA,
Ooh,
you're still my
must have
son.
sweet room.
And I will.
Need to get my shit. Okie
Ah.
dokie.
Almost forgot about the limb regulator.
Then we take the lift to go see H, right?
Yeah.
Cheap shot. Ooh, increases attack power when attacking enemies from behind. I don't mind that now. I don't mind that. Then again, how often am I actually attacking enemies from behind? That's everything. Oh, right, okay. Let's go.
We're here. Delphi sure didn't skimp on security.
Alright, I wonder what I'm up against now. Oh, we're going outside. Oh, right, I broke that thing. Right, okay.
Almost there.
Almost
Eight's
there.
right. There's still one more left.
Oh, why am I getting a cutscene?
Well done. The other regulator is in the next sector.
Got it. Diana, we're out of here.
Sorry, not sorry. A male deer's cheaper
That's me. You
to
thought
make.
of it.
A male deer cheaper to make though, is got the balls and they're under a buck. Oh yes, I'm stealing that one.
Be careful, Diana. Will do.
Under a
Look at
buck.
those flying things.
But the female ones as well, they're so expensive because of all the dough.
Those are butterflies. Not sure what kind though.
They drink nectar, right?
Yeah. Stuff's pretty
Yay,
sweet.
yeah.
Just liking sweet things is something we both share.
Is bitter bad then?
Nah, it's not bad. It's just doesn't bring a smile to your face the same way.
Wow. Sweet sounds fun.
Gotta try not to fawn over them. Oh, amazing. Amazing. When enemy's heat gauge is full, it'll be knocked down. Downed enemies can be hit with a critical shot. So is my main weapon now changed to this pulse carbine?
These tech sensors, yeah.
Oh, it's a lot better. Oh my god, that's a wonderful gun. But I bet you it takes ages to reload. I like it.
You're going down.
Yeah, it's just a long reload. But once you enter the fight, like, it's pretty good.
It's over.
Decoy generator, nicely job. That'll come in handy.
We won't be able to get across like this.
Handy for a guy called Andy. Oh, there's one of them things. Where is he? I can hear him. Ta-da! We just land down here? Yeah, we can. Cool beans, cool beans. Keeping balance though with the movement. Gotta move. Yeah, true. Means it gives me a chance to get a wee breather and kind of not have to focus on hacking. I don't know where that Tadaga went. He's up here somewhere then. He sounds like he's on my right hand side somewhere. Oh. What's this? Oh fuck. Took too long. I don't know what that did, but we did it. Whatever it is. I'd say he's probably like up there somewhere. All I need to do is find him and shoot him. Ooh, what's this? Oh, right, okay.
Chase is mine. Incoming. Fight. You. I got him.
Okay, that's I'm done. Got some cowboy builders in this place. They did indeed. Who puts a tree here?
This chip holds a license to generate quasi-organic plant material.
I don't know what that means, Diana. I don't know. Decoy generator, I have enough of them. Right, there's nothing there. How am I getting up? Don't put a fucking... really need to branch out. They just wanted to put it on and then just leave the place.
That'll do.
Oh my god. Fucking hell. How did I do that? I have a fucking... up to my arm. Like a rash. Hopefully it'll grow on everybody. Yes.
Something's aiming at us.
Hey there, Ark. I had a weird feeling that this requires a bit more than just turning it off and on again. Yeah, that is true. That is true. But that is the #1 rule of IT. Switch it off and switch it back on again and see how we get on. But welcome on. How you get on? Right, I'm definitely closer to where that thing is going to die. I can hear him. Where the fuck is he? Ah, there you are, you wee cretin, you. Bingo! Ah, yes, of course, working on... I know that one. How are you getting on? What is the crack? Was it Shinji? Yeah? Let me know if I'm pronouncing that right. If I'm not, we'll blame Hook. We'll say it's his fault. Ooh, secret door. Nice one. Nice one. Yeah, this is my first playthrough of this, and I'm absolutely loving this game. IT scares me. It's too many words. I can't even spell IT. Upgrade components. Nice. What did I not left here? No, just a log. I don't feel the... I can just about spell. Just about spell. Well, we have autocorrect now. We don't need to spell anymore.
Look at all
The same way we were told that lie at school that you would need...
Now.
You won't have a calculator everywhere you go, and you need to learn how to do all the equations, and then we have phones, and we now have a calculator everywhere we go. See, made my own example. Exactly.
Not a bad idea. Let's go find some chips.
Right, so have to do them we unlocks to get across. Okie dokie. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
better.
Better. Oh, none there. Right, okay, it was just the item. Back, how's Virtual Hugh going? Virtual Hugh's doing well. We lost the shirt pocket. No! I know. That's where we put our calculators. Nope, I don't want to go in there.
You want to go back to the shelter and regroup?
Although, I'm not necessarily an IT guy, but as being... Oh, fuck! Being a nerd at work, you kind of just get landed with all the IT questions. They're like, hey, nerd man, you can answer these questions, can't you?
Now it's my turn.
Oh, lovely damage. There we go. He did. That my phone couldn't do for me. Exactly. Exactly. Now, to be fair, the technology wasn't there at that point, but I just find it funny. We're like, hey, you'll never have a calculator everywhere you go. And now it's like, yep, yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Now I just don't count anymore.
I owe you.
Water numbers. Fuck knows. Fuck knows what are numbers. I think with ITs, we're starting the router and acting. Yep. But to be fair, that fixed 90% of the problems anyway, so you're grand.
I
Ah!
don't see a way to get it from here.
Let me in. Right, I don't think I've finished exploring over here. What is all this? Fuck, this is expensive. I got a ticket where someone was having issues with... they came to the conclusion that was the client. Actually, because their ASP said there was no issues in their end to turn it off, fix the issue. No one else in the residence were having an issue, except no one else uses Cloud Warp. So it proves nothing. So we get that as well quite a bit at work, where we have a software company that works with us, and then we have our own IT department, and the arguments between each other where they're both like, hey, but it works fine on my end, so it must be grand. And you're like, but it doesn't work. It's stopped working. It is sans working. Please sort it. Update what's happening. I work on large networks, including NATs, and 90% of the problems are solved by reboots. Yeah. It's the same, I suppose, with streaming too, because how many times does something go wrong and say streamer bot's playing up and you just restart it and it's sweet. Oh, there's another fake wall. Oh, fuck! There's a fail on here. Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you, sir.
You're going down.
I think we're going down here. There we go. We're sucking diesel now. Did you see the best clip of ever Flummush I got yesterday? No. What is it? What did he do? Was he scared? Was he terrified? If so, happy days. You know it's rude to interrupt someone during their private time, right? Yeah, well that's what I did. I was like, sir, this isn't the place for it. This isn't the place for that.
Uh-oh. Dead end.
Diana, we have a thing.
Regulator after all.
We have a thing.
Let's use a chip to make a path.
I still haven't found any of the wee differs, but we find a lot of these secret rooms, which is nice. You know how I mean, you love it. Yeah, oh yes. Flamash loves a good jump scare. And the fact that he always has his volume on so loud and not in headphones even makes it better because he just terrifies himself. It's my favorite. Right, okay. Right, where am I going?
Stop skittering around.
Here it comes! Look out! Splitting the hatch. Move, you!
Oh fuck, right, okay. You know, we're gonna go with decoy. Let you guys all go take. Oh no, they're not taking care of the decoy. They're still coming after me. Fuckers. You decoy. Go after the decoy. Not me. Nope, ignore me. Ignore the man. I need to get my carbine to heal back up again. I need to get my heals back up again. Sorry, just making sure I was caught up in shit there. It's a coming.
Sorry, we're going streaking.
105 stream streak. Good, my goodness. Hey.
Come on, everybody.
Fair play, sir. Right, okay. These guys are normally okay on their own, but my god, as a group, they're a wee bit high maintenance. I think the fact I'm low on health and stuff too is not helping. Right, one more. Okay, we got him.
Right on.
There we go. 117 is near, and then you can't watch. Yeah, you can't watch anymore after that. That's it done then. It's been nice having you, Hook. It's been nice having you around. But after that, no, I can't expect you to ever show up in another stream. You just have to make another account and then build it up with a new account. Come on, it's your bot. Do it that way. He bribes me. I don't need a bribe. Why was I in here? I'm assuming there's some sort of switch that I have to flip. Something over there. Something over there. I keep forgetting about this pulse as well. Right, what is it there? Where is this? Can't get in there. Fuck. Why did I come in here? And now I need help. You shill. There's another tree here that I never went to. Gin chip. I've been through this area. Have you finished this game?
Be careful.
Oh, fuck. Sir.
Defenses are down.
Nope, you haven't finished it yet. Ah, no bother.
I can't wait to get back to the shelter.
That's like whenever you're a kid and you bought a new game and you can't wait to get home and play it. But all you can do is just read the manual. That's all you can do because the game cannot be played yet. Fuck, there's loads of stuff around me. There's stuff around me. Well, there's that one over there that I can't get into. I need to get these gen chips so I can open a bridge. I think they got the... Oh, Dan is fucking phenomenal. Like, the greatest NPC. You know, I might go back... I might return to the shelter and then come back once I get my health and all back, because I feel like I'm running really, really low in health. Diana's brilliant in this. Brilliant character. Very, very good. Heal up, buddy. There we go. That's really all I needed, so I'm just going to go straight back out again.
I'm gonna go play.
Oh, she got a toy.
We reboot one more limb regulator.
Oh, we got 2 new toys. Balloons. One cabin gone. They're floating, but they're expensive now, Diana, because of inflation. I think we need the prologue game. Leads onto this one. Oh, fuck.
Fun.
Jesus, Tomahawk, that scared the shit out of me. Fucking hell. Had a wee panic there for a second.
Fucking diabolical.
Fucking diabolical.
Were these the ones from the Terradome?
I'm running round the house with my wee hatchet on me. Wee hatchet on me. Wee hatchet on me. I'm running round the house. I'm leveling up my gun first. I'm also running around the house with a wee hatchet on me. Ooh, so, that's training. I don't want training. Thank you, Shinji, for signing on the ledger. What happens is everybody signs on, and every time they sign in on a stream, they go up a level. Everybody's cumulative level goes together, and you fight a boss at the end of the stream, and if he's beat the boss, which, ooh, you're getting close to. If he's beat the boss, then it is everybody who signed in goes up a level that stream. Fuck, this is getting really itchy. What have I done to my arm? I must have had it off something. Done something. Can you level down Flumush? I'm actually working on something, not just the level down Flumush, but I'm working on a gambit where you can go on a quest, and if you beat the quest, you go up a level, and if you fail the quest, you go down a level. So it's a risk-reward thing. But the only issue I have with it at the moment is I can't get it properly to work with the roster. So it's getting there. It is getting there.
Still doesn't help us.
Still
quite
working
yet.
on it though. Why does it take so long to download and install drivers, for fuck's sake? Because you need a driver's license. You need a driver's license. Where?
Try putting the chip into the machine, Hugh.
We put the chip in the... Damn it, don't sass me. Don't you dare sass me. Sticky bombs. Yes, we will take sticky bombs.
And its matrix will shrink too.
Oh, we just never went up here last time. Right, okay. Shit connection? Oh shit, I'm screwed then. Is your connection bad? Or you just don't have a driver's license? Oh, right, okay.
If only we had a unit to release nodes. Oversight protocol at the ready.
Good job, Daniel.
Incoming.
You're going down.
No, I think we're going down here. Oh, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Oh, let's go. No connection. I'm great if I'm impatient. I'm the same as well. You just want it done there and there, don't you? Fucking diabolical. There we go. Sucking diesel now, sir. Whew. Right, so it's another chip. Cool beans. I think we need 3 altogether. Which, to be fair, if you were ordering chips and you only got 3, you'd be raging.
More to go. Let's wrap this up.
What is this? Red gate key? I don't want the red gate
Now
key.
we can enter a red zone.
Diana, I don't want to go into the red zone. It says it's more difficult.
Looks like
And
this place is set up to
I'm not
simulate
very good at this so far.
bad weather.
Bad weather? Is there good weather too?
People
Yes.
have good moods and bad, right? It's the same thing.
So they're purposely trying to make the Earth angry.
I guess so.
There, we unlock this as well. I've noticed that you have to do this every time. It doesn't automatically unlock checkpoints.
Glad we found you.
I just uploaded Halo and then got a new update of... Oh, right, okay. I still have to download Halo and give it a go as well. I don't envision I'm going to have much time for it until maybe the weekend. Think what is happening.
Got it.
Oh, there we go. Boop, beep, boop. New profile pic is giving me say. Yeah, I changed the profile picture because I've seen a few people do it, and to be honest, like I seen Mailbox and all do it, and I thought it was pretty cool looking. I thought I would give it a go.
Initiating weather simulation test.
Oh, that was a bad move. That was a bad move.
The bots won't react well to that.
Let's give him a little shock, shall we?
You're going down.
Overdrive protocol on standby.
We're going to keep it, Diana, because I reckon there's going to be a few guys coming. Will that get him?
Just you.
Yes, it will. How did I detonate the sticky bomb? They attach them, but I don't know if they detonate. Oh, this is going to whap him. Asher, what is happening as well? Sorry, buddy, I didn't even welcome you in there. What is the story? How are you getting on?
Now it's my turn.
There we go. Oh, thunder and lightning's still happening. Right, okay. Fucking knew it!
Get ready.
Lads, we're just going to get all of these and see if this lightning takes you down. Oh, yes. Did a considerable amount of damage. I don't know what the... I don't know how to use the sticky bombs. Is there a button I'm supposed to be pressing to make them detonate? Oh, no. Oh, it's right on him. Right on him. No, but I didn't sleep and I've had muscle aches all day. I've been off sertraline. Oh, no way, Ash. I hope you're feeling better soon, buddy. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, fudge. I know it's not ideal at all. Is that everybody? Imagine so. Let's heal up. The healing is very slow in this. Like it's not a quick Dark Souls heal. Like not that Dark Souls immediately quick anyway, but the Estus flasks are a bit quicker than this.
Great.
Oh wow! Right, okay, lads, you can all go for that, and I will. Oh, and we have the lightning as well. Nicely job. We're going to take a Rat Blaster because them sticky bombs are a bit pants. He's on the flower!
Yeah, let's do this.
Is changing something. I hope it levels out. Alright, okay. Octopus, what's happening, sir? How are you getting on? Seen the Octopus fighting people in Burton's stream earlier on the day. It was good crack.
Good job.
I don't want the sticky bombs. The sticky bombs are shite. Or they might not be shite. I just... Oh, fuck. Right, okay. There's somebody else. I just don't know how to use them.
You're going down.
Oh, ready to go. Might only have the sticky bombs. What am I supposed to do with these? Is there a button I'm supposed to press to detonate them? Because I'm just sticking on them. Alright, we're going back to our primary weapon now. Oh, hold on. The Adventures of Tin Man and Back... Yes! Backpack Chan, this is true. This is true! Thank you very much for doing the shout-out. Oh, it was me that did the shout-out. Oh, there we go! Thank you, me. Yeah, so... Hold on, I'm going to get my glasses on because I'm struggling to read here. Yeah, so predicted side effects are the same as going on it. So I knew the kind of thing would happen. Ah, right. But it'll be worth it in the end because I'm noticing positives. Oh, amazing, man. Happy days. Happy days, sir. I'm glad to hear it. What am I doing? Sorry, just checking this thing. Be back in just a wee second, folks. Sorry, folks, just throwing up my lurks. Blue beans, let's go. Brilliant. It is a great outcome. Happy days. I'm happy for you, Asher.
Don't go inside the circle.
Oh, he's fired everything at me. Not happy, bunny.
How you like this?
Move, you.
Sammy Dabby Doo, welcome on, buddy. Oh, do I get to do something? No, I don't. He's doing something. Oh, fuck. I do get to do something.
Take this.
Yes! Sammy, welcome on. What's happening?
Great idea.
Reckon shaders? Oh, see, every time you upgrade your graphics driver and having to update shaders again. Oh, Monster Hunter was so slow with it as well. It was the worst. Why did I come in here? Oh, I dropped down here, didn't I? To carry on forward, right? Okay. But of course I cannot stay as I want to play. Ah, not a problem, Sammy. Thank you so much, even just for calling and saying hello, buddy. Oh, we're chatting. We're chatting.
We just need to list the soil sample.
Ignore the little girl on my back.
We ran earlier.
The study to enrich soil fertility with nitrogen oxide via artificial lightning. Think we have what it takes to knock the CEO's socks off?
We've always known the benefits were there, but the current model was just too cost prohibitive. But if we use lightning generators made from
Right,
them,
lightning
we can
generators.
get positive results at a fraction of the price.
Sounds promising. This might be what we need to get biomass back in the dead zones. Good. Very good. Let's name the report How Lightning Will Save Our Earth.
That's ready to go. How lightning will save our Earth. I think it's a good name. It's a good, strong family name.
Let's reboot that regulator and go help Abe.
Of course,
Yep.
it's the least I could do. Say that I decided to stream it. Those, yeah, I do see you like at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, no, Sammy, why? I also agree. Halo remake is def. Resi remake levels. Oh, is it that good? Like I know Hook is well pleased with, but I didn't know it was that good. And do you think we're likely to get the other games like Halo 2 and 3 and all remade? Because that would be kind of cool. Did everybody just respawn in here? Oh, he got me. He got me good. Oh, yes. Okay, he's down. Did we get another gen chip, I wonder? I don't know. There's something up there I have to still get. I heard it was buggy and crash prone. Really? Keepers. I know, I haven't played it at all, so I know very little about it. I know Hook's loving it. Look at a note at the end of the stream today. Burton said he was actually enjoying FF7 Remake. He doesn't think he'll enjoy the classic turn-based, but the game's getting him curious. It's a good way to get people on as well and get them into the story. I think he would enjoy it, you know. I think it's just the old school rivalry of back in the day. Final Fantasy VII versus Ocarina of Time, and he was Ocarina, I was Final Fantasy VII. The fact that we've become friends is amazing. I think they would see how well the yeah. A remake's fine if it's done well, you know, like the Resi remakes and stuff, or a remaster. It just depends on how well they do it. What am I looking for here? Like there's a box down there. Oh, there was something up here I had to get. Right, okay. Can I loop round, or is this just going to take me through the same way again? The old Zelda FF rivalry takes me back. I know, on the playground being all like, which is better, Final Fantasy VII or Zelda? And people are like, it's Zelda, it's Final Fantasy. And you're just like, no, we can't be friends. Right, off to go bed. Off to pursue more of this. Not a problem, Sammy. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate you, buddy. Sammy Dabby Doo. Right, obviously I'm not getting whatever that is that way. I can see the fucking tree from here, but I can't. Oh! I was the whole way through there. Oh, it's my own dumbass fault. Fuck, I wonder if I could just scoot back up and get it. I did open this door. Yes, I can. So I just completely ignored the actual chip I was supposed to get. Because I'm a dumbass. Also, Legend of Mana better than Zelda and Final Fantasy. Ooh, that's a strong stance to have. But you know what? Fair play to you. Fair play to you.
Please, no more
The
chips.
Zelda, Legend of Mana, and Final Fantasy wars shall begin. We will remember your words. Did you read one of the Final Fantasy directors said to remake 6, 8, 9, and 7, probably split them into 4? Did you read? Said to remake 6, 8, and 9, like 7, probably split them into 4 or 5 parts. I don't know if they're going to. 9, I think, would probably be the most likely. I would love to get one of 6. But 9 would probably be the most likely, because that's the one's most heavily rumored, I think, at the moment. I might just... no, we'll keep going, We'll risk it for the biscuit. 5 parts, my god. Yeah, the rumors of 9, nothing 6 and 8. 8 would be my favourite, as the t-shirt says, but it would be the most... It's the one that people give off about the most, which makes me sad. Oh, did I do the wrong one? Well, we're just going to keep going. I don't think they'll do 8. 9 I can see happening, and 6 I can see happening. Stars and bars? Thank you for the lurk. What is happening, buddy? How are you getting on? Enough on Stars and Bars as well as another Irish streamer. Didn't really care for it. I loved Final Fantasy VIII. I can understand why people don't like it though. Once you learn how to use the junction system, that game becomes broken. Ooh, there's shit. There's shit and shenanigans. Oh, right, folks, okay. I need to figure out how to do these. Maybe it's just time-based. Maybe they just go off at a certain amount of time. Where? Where, Diana?
Back off.
That's annoying sometimes where it doesn't aim at the right one. I know I can manually swap it. It is kind of my fault, but you know what I mean. That Square to full-blown remake of 6 is unlikely. The game is just huge. Yeah. It depends. It depends on how. It depends on whether they reckon they're going to make money from it. 7 was always the obvious choice. The likes of 10 and all probably doesn't need it. 10 still holds up really, really well.
You can't clear this gunk up?
No,
Nope, we can't clear that stuff.
I guess not.
But 8 I would love to see, but that's more of a personal thing for me. But they'll never do 8. They'll never do 8. Right. This next thing is over this way. Ten probably doesn't need it. Yeah, I don't think 10 needs it. 10's still a wonderful game, and still... whenever someone's looking to start a Final Fantasy game, 10 is the one I normally recommend. Because it's a great introduction to it. Never need it, but thank you. Not a problem, Stars and Bars. Thank you for coming on. I already have this chip. This is why I already have the fucking chip. My god, I'm a fucking noob.
Can't believe we had to go through all this for one regulator.
This is why I can't be taking places. I am going to go heal up first because I need my heals. I need my heals! And then I'll go up. But I've started physically collecting all the Final Fantasy games as well, which I'm excited about. I still have to get 16, 11, and 14.
Hey there, Hugh. If we reboot one more limb regulator, the tree will disappear.
Yeah, we got it. We got it. Don't worry about it now. We got it. I'm so glad you don't lose stuff you find when you die. Yeah. Just pure Dark Souls style, just proper punish you. I was playing Stellar Blade recently as well, and that's the one thing I did notice, although it's kind of Souls adjacent. It doesn't punish you at all, really, for dying. Yeah, the Tuesday style remake for this 2D games, I bet 4 would be first. I reckon so, 4? Okay. I would think with the older ones, they might do a more Octopath 2.5, new D sort of variation of it, just to kind of keep the art style as close as possible. Because at least with 7 and 8, they were 3D games. But, you know what, I don't know, I'm going to be excited to see any trailers or anything come out. Like, with all the rumors and how much it's loved, I think 9 will probably be the next one.
I think I'm sensing a strong bot nearby.
Like, it was heavily rumored that, like, we were getting a trailer and all soon. Can I just shoot this from here? No? Don't know who plays the jiggle physic. The shiny bums. shiny bombs. Charge Piercer. Oh, wonderful.
This guy again?
I think they were testing something.
Damn it. Me and my dumb luck. Get some!
Linking the enemy.
I'm going to take down the smaller guys first. As much as possible. Because it's going to be more difficult dealing with multiple enemies. Oh fuck, red, okay. Red circles. Red circles are bad.
I got it. This place is building up.
Got him. Nine got an animated series last year as well. Did they get it? I don't know what. Keepers, I must have slept on that one. Fucking cool though, but that. You get away from the red circles, Diana. How about that? How about that? Eh? Riot Blaster.
Come on, enough already.
Well, there's a lot going on with this.
Take this!
Hopefully, I have iframes here and I don't take damage. Yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Right, okay. It's your turn now, big guy. So I scheduled for 2028. Okay, Black Mage Legacy. Oh, very nice, very nice. 7 Revelation. We'll have a job system. I did see that. It's like a costume, sort of armor based, not turn based though. Yeah, BB is indeed yes. 4 is a perfect length. Recognizable characters, popular among the fan base. Seems to have a logical. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Hope the next FF returns in the form of turn based and job system. I still prefer the pistol. Yeah, no, I like the carbine though. I think it's pretty enough there, but it's pretty good. I actually thought there would have been a lot more turn-based announcements after Clear Obscure did so well, but apparently not. I was expecting everybody to get on that bandwagon, unless it's still due to happen, but. Sir.
Stay away from the red circle.
Try!
I know, Diana. I know to stay away from the red circles, but do you know to stay away from the red circles? Let me get rickety wrecked.
Take this!
When I found this guy... sorry, I was alright. When I found this guy, I could never get behind him. Oh, right, okay. Turbo! What's happening? Yeah, more dancing. Oh, yeah, I'm fucking loving this game. Beware Diana would chase the red circles aside. She'd be like, oh, it's a red circle!
Shoot it where it's weak,
Sir?
Stay away
Sir?
from the red circle.
Stay away from the summoner! No, Diana, no! Although there was that one part where she fucking fell off the ledge as well, which is a bit scary.
Be careful.
Oh no! Oh no, sir. I'm behind him. Fuck, right, okay. Shotgun.
Do this.
I think we're doing okay, sir. I think we're doing alright. I think we're doing okay. Oh, bugger. Right, okay, that was a lot. I'm trying to, Diana. My God. You're so bossy. Ooh, right, okay. I love that damages him as well as me. She jumps off a bridge after it, and he's like, no! Oh, yes. Turbo, I don't even know if I welcomed you in properly, but anybody not following our buddy Turbo Benzo, please do so as well. Phenomenal streamer from Down Under. Plays a lot of Final Fantasy games. What are you playing at the moment? It's still FF14, which is a game I've recently got back into because the expansions and what have you. I need to stop doing that. Yep, but okay. Oh no.
We did it!
Is that him dead? He's dead! Got him. Deco generator. Oh, I could have used that. I could have used that, and I didn't. Son of a gun. I left this side of me.
Glad that's over.
We still gotta reboot that regulator, Hugh.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, what's this? Pure linium. Lemon. Upgrade components. See, I'm not too sure about what I'm going to stream for the rest of the week as well, because I don't know how much of this game I have left in it. But after this, it's going to be Resident Evil Village I'm moving on to, which I'm a wee bit terrified about, but you know what, I'll do. Weapon slot. You've gained an additional weapon slot,
Now
right?
you can hold more units.
Ooh, very cool.
Won't say no to that.
I don't like the fact that they've given me this and then a room full of weapons. It worries me. Right, so I can just switch between them, right, okay. It worries me that there's going to be some form of boss fight.
I think I found an REM. Hugh, let's check it out.
All right, all right.
We found an REM, as in the band.
Of all the places to put this thing.
Not finishing 6. I will do that. I will do that as well,
Then let's
separately.
get on that lift and go.
I might just do it offline and just upload the VODs for it. But yeah, we'll be finishing 6 as well. Right, okay. We're going
So,
up a lift.
we finally get to meet 8.
Up a lift.
I wonder what her deal is. Could she be the scientist that made you?
I don't think so.
Okay, we have multiple weapons.
something?
Cool.
No, it's not that. I just feel like she's someone important to me.
I see. Well, we better step on it.
Okie dokie. Artichoke. We need this. Yes. We're okay health-wise, so we don't actually need to go back yet. Go. Ah, there's a Wayne stuck there. Is her name Teresa?
Diana, you're here. Thank you.
So you're 8. What on earth happened here?
While I was preparing to depart for Earth, the moonquake struck, damaging Edis. The bots, these trees, everything went out of control. You can see how well I fared.
Moonquake. I lost my team when it hit.
If we can access the mainframe, we could force Edis offline with this stop code. As Pragmata, we're equipped with the ability to overwrite a system's programming. That same power lies within you, Diana.
Are we not going to get the Wayne out of the tree?
There's nothing like that in my memory. I see. How unfortunate.
Well, let's see what we can do about that tree.
I'm sorry. I'm no help. That's not true. You've made it this far, haven't you?
We have. We've done all right, you know.
We can stop Edis together.
Doesn't look like we can do anything here. But there's another place we can check. We'll shut Edis down, and then we'll head to Earth.
Hold on, 8. We'll get you out of there. Thank you.
We not just cut it, no?
You two look like twins.
Meet the trapped girl. Oh shit,
Yeah.
right, okay.
What's up?
8 sure seemed driven.
Yeah. Not sure why she wants to go to Earth, but guess that'll come after we bust her out. Should be another regulator down below. One that can clear that tree.
Soil research, let's go. Cabin coin? I should maybe start spending those a wee bit too. Should I be going up here to see what's up here? Or can I get up there? No, not really. Right, okay. Ooh! Where's the... Oh, we've Death Stranding. We found Death Stranding. Shit, shit.
You've been to the sea before? On Earth?
Of course I have. Got a house with a view and everything.
A house.
A house!
We'd head down to the water anytime we felt like taking a break from it all. Ocean breeze does a number on the pain, but still.
The breeze in the paint?
It'll make sense when you see it. You know, back on Earth. You just gonna stay here when this is all done? What do you want?
At McDonald's.
I want to go to Earth. With you. Can I really go? Then I can go see your house and the ocean and real trees.
You bet.
I know, Turbo, she's fucking
We
adorable.
gotta help 8 first.
The absolute best NPC in the game.
And then
You want to see back at our base, she has wee toys and stuff, and she draws you pictures. It's like the most encouraging I've ever been in a game to get all the collectibles.
You got it.
Teddy, what's happening? Welcome in.
Now that we've
Yeah,
got
they
a game
surgery.
plan, let's finish this.
Have you heard of the critically acclaimed
Yes, there we
MMORPG
go.
Final Fantasy XIV?
Looking
With an
fresh as
expanded
fuck.
free trial,
Am I?
which you can play through the
Fucking
entirety
exhausted
of A
today,
Realm
but thank you,
Reborn
Teddy.
and the award-winning Heavens Ward, Stormblood and Shadowbringers expansions up to level 80 for free with no
Yeah, I know. That's Teddy's walk on. Just to let us all know. Let us all know. Final Fantasy 14.
Another damn locked door.
Here's one.
Right, we're going to have to find all these locks now to get through. What's in here? Ooh, we tunnel. We tunnel.
Dark as hell in here.
Teddy, how are you getting on? What is happening?
Feels like we're being watched.
Oh, shit. No. Damn! Ah! Well, that happened.
Hey, don't sweat.
He's fucking stealthy.
Where are you?
I'm on it.
Wasn't him down a bit slow. It was me. I can't get it. Fuck.
Oh no.
Hang in there. How you like this? Good job, Dick.
Fucking hell, that one's a bit scary. Oh, is that going to be a normal enemy now? If so, I'm fucked. Whew. Right.
That's two.
That is two.
Right?
You're right, Dana. That is
We
two.
should hire our own bot to do this for us.
You know, it's not a bad idea. It's not the worst idea I've heard. Fucking hell. Ooh, what are you? Photon laser? Sharks are freaking lasers.
Shooting for continuous damage. Look out for its target.
Ooh, right, okay.
Right on.
Oh shit, they still got me.
Here they come again. Overdrive protocol on standby.
Right, he's down. Is there someone else shooting at me now?
Something's aiming at us.
Yeah, I can feel it. Right, okay. We're chewing through him. Chewing through him. Stasis net. Nicely job. Nicely job. Right. Okie dokie. Artichoke. Shockwave. I do like the shockwave gun. I like it a lot. Oh, fuck. Another one there. Fuck. Right, let's go down it. We're getting him this time. Fucking got him.
Wow, amazing.
He's invisible.
Where are you?
Where are you?
Don't go inside the circle.
Right, okay, next one. I know. I didn't know. I lied.
Overdrive protocol.
We're just going to use it. We're just going to burn it. We'll go for it. Oh, it's a fucking laser, that's why. Sharks with frickin' lasers.
I got him. Don't go inside the circle.
Oh, there's a bastard there too. Fuck.
Now it's my turn. It's on now. Take this.
Booyah! Sorry, folks, I am in deep concentration. You son of a gun! How dare you? Ah, he's dead. Sweet. All this for whatever's in this box, it fucking better be good. Upgrade, 3 upgrade components is actually pretty decent. I can't be raging. I can't be raging. I'm running around the house with my wee hatchet on me. Wee hatchet on me. Wee hatchet on me.
One more to go.
I'm running around.
You know,
I think it's worse I can hear myself
the
singing that.
brain that scattered all these
My wee hatchet on me. Mate, what is happening? How are you getting on? How is your evening going? I had to go to glasses mode. There was too much text come up on screen and I just couldn't fucking read it. That's back down the beach. That is look at that. Fucking hell. GG to the artist of this game. You be in and out, lurk, not a problem. I have you tabbed up as well, May, so don't even worry yourself about it. May is currently streaming some house flipper. Flipping them houses. Now, that's a very misleading title of a game. You would assume somebody's going to be really, really strong and start lifting houses and chucking them, but that's not the case. That is not the case at all. It's not the quesadilla. There's one more over there. Is there? No, I'm going back the way. Right, wrong way. Lazy! What is happening? You didn't recognize your pure Larn style EFP. Thought it was ready? I'm nowhere near as handsome as Ready. How dare you insult Ready so? What the fuck? Oh! You bastard. Who said you could be there? I don't know where the weakness is in this guy, but I'm just going to whap him anyway. Well, they say, how did the rest of your stream go earlier on? That was a really fucking super early one for you as well. Slow response. Just having a great time on the horn, so semi-lurk. Oh, not a problem. Aye, be careful. Be careful, Teddy. I'd say his weakness is bullets. Do you know what? So's mine. I'm allergic to bullets. My body takes a bad reaction to them. Not that I would know. I just get a feeling.
Yeah, let's do this.
Yes. Great crack. 28 hours of no sleep. Drive you man insane. Ah, sure. What a crack, sir, isn't it? I need to get in there. Ah, there's the one.
That's all of them.
That's all of them.
Keep up the pace.
I do need to heal up at some point, though. That is a thing. What is this? Oh, it's on. Fuck. Thought there was something hidden there. Bum 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 bum. Right, that is going to be a boss. I need to go back and heal. Power World is fun. Crowd control is fun. Chat is 90. Recipe for good times, man. So good, man. Did it? Or Lazy? Did I give you a shout out? Here we go. Anybody's not following Lazy's a fellow Northern Irishman. He's from Larn, though he will deny it furiously. He is the most Larniest man you'll ever see. He's actually mayor of Larn. Just so you know.
The sea was so pretty.
What can we upgrade? Ooh. I am just going to keep bumping points into my primary weapon. Oh, hacking as well. Yes, maybe. I bucking dare you. See, that's a very Larn thing to say. You know, people from over here don't say bucking. I don't want auto hacking, do I? Repair up? Yes. Where even is Larn? Mayor of Larn. He's the mayor. He's the horse of Larn. That's true. That's true. Where is it? I don't fucking know. It's a port, isn't it? That's as much as I know that there's a fucking port on it. Look, sure, you would know more than me.
Training sim data has arrived. Be sure to give it a try.
Also, I have to use these red zones to unlock this other bit. Right, okay, now I'm getting it. But I can still use these for all this.
We
Right,
are
okay.
honored to provide one of
Port Larn, sure I'm seasick.
our greatest goods.
I mean, you don't need to go on the boats. You just need to welcome them. You need to do the Larnington dance and the greeting whenever the boats come in.
An impeccable choice.
I'm not choosing anything, I'm just randomly picking things. So fuck you, Steve.
Satisfaction level maximum. Glad we could be of assistance.
Sure, fair play. Oh, I was just looking through the things, right, okay. Games like this get me. See if they have something that says new on it, I'm like, oh.
Will they pop?
What do you mean?
The balloons all okay?
Yep, they're all there.
Look at you go. I was always popping or losing every balloon I saw.
What's the matter, Cleo, eh?
What's wrong?
Where's the puppy? Where's the baby?
I did lose one.
That's a very... That's a very suspicious emote there, mate. Very suspicious. Oh, Cleo, nobody wants to give you a treat. Oh, my baby. Oh, the pups. Oh, there she is. There she is.
Tell me what you want.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
there we go.
Excuse me?
Cleo
No.
May has given you a treat.
What do you say?
I know. Oh, she's
No.
all... You're happy?
No.
Oh, she's all happy.
I'm not gonna give you a treat if you call me that.
There we go.
What do you say?
We have to flip over here the screen because the puppy's up here and everything. Oh, look at her. Look at her. Oh, Cleo, what's the matter? Where's my kisses? Can I have kisses? Cleo, where'd she go? Where'd she go? Up. What, you don't fall down? What, you don't fall down? You be grand. There she is. I know. There's my baby. Right, do you want a wee treat, darling? You want a treat? What about this? There she goes. She got it. Now, the thing is, though, she's just used me for the treat. She will clear off now in a wee second. She'll be just gone. She'll num her treat and then just disappear on me. Been used. I've been used. Used and abused by Cleo. It is funny, though, anytime I'm, like, gaming here or if I'm on a work call or something, as soon as I start talking, it's desk. She's like, well, clearly it's treat time. I'm going to come over here now. Oh, what's the matter? You need to go pee-pee? Is that what's wrong? You might have to go pee-pee. I am going to take a quick break, and I got the voting game working again. So anybody who hasn't been here before, the two games will come up. It's exclamation mark vote 1 for the first game, exclamation mark vote 2 for the second one. I am going to likely go for pee-pee, and I'm going to refill my juice, and I'll be back in a minute.
finding Leoric in another person's chat is not, shall we say, the rarest gym badge in Panto. You'll usually find them somewhere making dad jokes, you know? Yeah, but like you're one of those like shiny ones that everyone has because they were like in a special drop event or something like that, you know?
Final Fantasy X, it's a worthy champion. Ian, sure, there's himself. Welcome, and how are you getting on, sir? What is the story? Yeah, so Final Fantasy X, hey, some good contenders there, but Final Fantasy X that was going to win it no matter what, sure. So, let's get back into this game. Let's see. What am I doing? Oh, yeah, I was getting health before I went back out again.
There it is.
There, what is? What are we talking about? She drew me a picture.
Drawing was so much fun that I kind of made a mess.
Actually, don't be worrying, Wayne. PRAGMATA's phenomenal, Ian. But fucking brilliant game.
Crayons tend to run off.
Diana is the best NPC ever in a game. More people here need to play Legends of Good. Love Legends of Good. Love it. If you go over, Kai no Michi and Daniil are currently playing through it. I think Daniil might have finished it recently, but Kai is currently playing through Legends of Good. And very good.
Thanks for everything.
So there he is, the internet. Evening, buddy.
So, do you
got another picture?
It's, that cat again.
Cat's massive.
I drew lots, but this one turned out the best. So, I'm giving it to you.
Hey, it's actually pretty good.
Whoa, don't be saying like that. Come on here. Jeepers, ruin the wee Wayne's confidence. Right, I'm assuming there's some sort of boss fight coming up now, though. Tetradome. Soil research, that's where I'm going. Been needing to play it for years. Legend of Good's very, very good. Very underrated game. And a lot, when you do play it, you see a lot of the inspiration for Expedition 33 in it, you know, with the combat is. Standard Wednesday, it's not Wednesday anymore, yeah. It's essentially the weekend, because Wednesday's done. So it's literally the weekend now. Help 8. We're helping Final Fantasy 8, folks. That's what we're doing. Actually, just so you know. See? Final Fantasy 8. We're helping it. Helping it. We're bringing what's the word? Ooh, I don't know what that is.
That device is emitting some kind of jamming signal. If we touch it, I won't be able to hack.
Can I
What the heck are we supposed to do?
There we go. We're bringing the people back to Final Fantasy 8 because it needs to be done. Needs to be done. Oh, right. Is this a whole new area, or am I just getting something in here?
Looks like that door's blocked.
Yeah, that tree's in our way.
Right, okay. Ian, you're right. Final Fantasy 8. Final Fantasy 8.
Better. We can use that back at the shelter.
I think I need to get new glasses or something, because I'm just constantly doing that thing where they slip off my face. Maybe I just have a weird face. Maybe I've got a weird nose. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe I need a new nose. Maybe I could break it so there's like a wee ridge and it holds my glasses. Maybe that's the key. Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. I don't even know what it was. I just heard the music. Shit just got real. Oh, it's invisible fucker. If I can get him with a stasis net. I don't like this new enemy type. Let's go. No! Stranger danger. Stop greasing your face up. My face? Am I looking greasy? Pretty dry. Look, I'm looking slimy, Emma. Ooh, right, that's not good. Thank you, Flimlash, for telling me.
I think that solved the little tree problem. You think 8's tree's gone now too?
I don't think so. Seems like it only got rid of the trees in here.
No, about the glass. Oh, the glass is slipping. Right, okay. Yes, it's the face grease. I use it to make myself look young. Face grease, the movie.
Use that to help me hack.
I do not like them sticky bombs. I don't like the sticky bombs. Because I don't know how to use them. Wait, is that what's supposed to happen? I'm supposed to hit them with a sticky bomb and then hack?
My hacking won't work.
Shit, right, okay. Oh, fuck, right, okay. That's not good. Shit. This is much worse with a bad guy in here with me.
You gotta stop the jammer, please.
I'm trying, Diana! Claire, what's happening? Hey, fella, so happy to see you live, but I gotta avoid spoilers. I cry. Not a problem, Claire. Thank you very much for coming on. Invite's not checked out Claire Must Kill. Phenomenal streamer. Caught her playing Resident Evil a wee while back as well. Really good. Player must avoid spoilers. This is true. This is true. So leave a lurk. I appreciate the lurk. I thank you. I thank you. The only thing I'm spoiling here today, though, is bad gameplay.
Move, you.
There we go. Fuck you. Got it. Got it. Yay!
Oh, if only we had a unit to delete nodes.
I knowed what I was doing the entire time. Jobs are good.
Got more company.
Oh no! I don't want more company. No! No!
I owe you.
I just must every one of them nodes. Fucking hell. Oh, is he in my team? And I'm shooting him. I am a noob. It did say it would do that.
Like this.
Get my own teammate. Yay! No, you die, brother. Yep. No, no. Sir. Jobs are good. Well dead, well dead. All the way. All dead. All dead. Chrissy, what's happening? Well, handsome. You looking in that mirror again, buddy? New Twitch profile picture class. Yeah, I've seen a few people, like May has it, and Mailbox has it, where it's just a picture of themselves. And I was like, you know what, that kind of stands out to me, because I'm looking through like a lot of Twitch things, and when I see Mailbox or someone, I'm just like, oh, well, you know, that's clearly identifiable. I know who that is. So I took a few pictures, and then I got AI to kind of add the lighting and stuff to it. And I thought, you know what, I like it. I'm going to see about swapping it over, because I'm 42 now. I'm old as fuck. So I'm thinking maybe a more mature thing. Plus, it means as well, whenever I'm having an actual serious conversation with someone, maybe on Discord, it's not a picture of me laughing, which is kind of off-putting sometimes. It's like, yes, oh, that's a serious thing that happened to you, but then you look at my profile picture and it's like, so now I'm staring off into the distance. Don't know what I'm looking at, but I'm staring off at it. They are, are you John Rambo? Welcome, man. What is happening? Ooh, what's this? Ooh, shockwave. Yes, shockwave gun. Yes. Looking at me, I was there. We should get one of you facing back the other way and we could stare at each other. That's what we'll do. You're good. Nice one. How's your Wednesday going? Hope there's not too much in here. Oh, we have something in that wee room for me.
I heard you're transferring over to the Lim Lab.
Oh, here we go.
That's right, but I'm a little worried. Why is that? Weren't you angling to get into basic limnological research? I'm happy about the reassignment, but I'm worried I might struggle to keep up. Oh, is that with Dr. Higgins?
Oh, thank you for signing the ledger. Ooh. Oh, very close to beating the boss. Very close. Chrissy P, thank you very much as well for signing on. Covers all the bases for you and Hook. If you have a fallen out, you can you can just flip the image. I need to get in here. How am I getting in here?
Found an REM.
Yeah, I found.
Let's check it out.
But how am I getting?
All right.
How am I getting in? I need to get. How am I getting into the room? Surely it's not another way in, is it? There isn't, and don't call me Shirley. Fantastic. Although unlikely. He loves me after all, this is true. Don't ever tell him that.
Got it.
Right, so I can't get into that room. Must be something. Ooh, maybe it's this. Maybe this gets me in. Jesus, Diana, you are fucking class. How did you hear would be fucked? He would be absolutely hammered if Diana wasn't here to run around after him. Oh, I'm one of them boys. Where is he? I can hear him. Right, we'll get this first. A swing. Ooh.
Wait to get back to the shelter.
Can I? Yes. Got him. Look for Hook. Oh, don't be doing it. Don't be doing it to me.
Hugh, we got a security zone.
How good is that new feature as well? That Twitch clip that thing. I know it's probably going to do it now that I've said it, but how good is the feature? Is it decent enough? Whoops. What way did they kind of work it? Oh, there's going to be a fight down here, isn't there? There is. It's like if you ever played the old Gears of War. I've actually not tried it. Has anyone? I think Ian did, and it worked quite well. But you remember in Gears of War, you could tell when there was going to be a fight when you walked into a big room and there was cover everywhere. Use it once, it worked well. Yeah.
Enough already.
Yeah. See, it just did it there now. I can see it in my activity log. Now, as a serial clipper, it upsets me that my job has been taken from me. But you know what? Can't be there all the time. I know, Diana. Right, we got it. We got it!
Right on.
Let's go, Diana. Let's fucking take him. I think this is so cool. I love that attack. I think my favourite one has to be the one where she's doing the 1-1-0s. It's like 1100111000. Like that's really cool.
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, we did it. Oh fuck! Why is there another jammer? Why is the snow mechanic? Go away, jammer! Go fight him. Oh, he's down. Let's go, let's go, let's go. I know the Flemish with the testing for the for the clipper thing as well, where we'll go through and look at your VOD, find clips. Now I use external services for that, but it'll be handy trying to build them one. I like the idea of it being free. Free is my favorite. What do you mean more?
Don't go inside the circle.
You don't go inside the circles. I knew this guy was here, but I thought you meant there was more coming down. Sorry for shouting at you.
Right on.
Oh, anybody looking for a good film as well, The Odyssey. Really enjoyed it. Very, very good show. I thought when it was advertised, about being from Homer, I thought I was watching The Simpsons, but no. Tried to use automation to crawl for vid clips, but sadly, didn't find it worked. I think having a clip button, you press yourself as a reminder. Yeah, I used to do that. I'm now using Clip Ladder, and it seems to be very, very good at picking out clips. Means as well you can kind of set up templates for how you want your screen to be broken up and stuff, which is quite good. I used to use... Fuck, I can't remember the name of the one I used to use, but it was very hit or miss whether it got good clips or not. Fun fact, the hacking interface in this universe is based on Windows 11. It's Windows Vista! Fucking Vista. You ever see that in IT crowd? There's a bomb, and they have this wee robot to defuse it, and the robot freezes, and Moss and Roy are standing there, and they're all, what operating system is it? It's Windows Vista. We're doomed! There's other options, fucking phone typing. Ah, right, no worries. I do that now. I use Atom Vertical and an OBS built-in flashback board. Yeah, no wonder they end up being a huge disaster. I didn't know that was a thing. I did it before where I used to just record my entire VOD. And I would do it in... Noddy did a video on it where you can record one video, but you can record different sources from the video, so you can have gameplay only, your camera only, and it's exceptionally well done. But it was just taking up so much space.
This might be upgrading their designs.
So Noddy is a really good video on how to set it up, but it means that you have one video file, and then you use a bit of code that he has and splits it up into how many different things you want, how many assets you want. So it means you can move them about as well. Or if you just want gameplay, if you want to switch between them, you can do it. Storage is an issue, yeah. I do it as well in my VODs. I download them after every stream and then upload them again on the YouTube. But I keep having to remember to delete everything because otherwise storage is fecked. Oh, dark room. Don't like it. Don't like a dark room. But I love watching videos, see like Nutty and Gal Level and stuff. Their stuff's brilliant. It's kind of what inspired me and Hook to do the whole...
Oh, hello, Papa. I was just about to... What have you put on my head? I do not like it. You have made me to look like the silly cows,
and I am not the silly cows.
I am a strong and agile German shepherd. Keine dumme Kuh.
Upgrade components. I wish it was that easy to upgrade components in real life. I've started kind of going on a bit of a health kick as of today. Decided to eat better, gonna properly get my steps in, track them, get competitive about it and stuff. Just kind of had a reset the past couple of days, and I'm like, right, getting the health and getting the physical health sorted, getting the mental health sorted, getting back into the streaming, and that's kind of me in a nutshell at the moment. Right, so I'm going up the elevator then, right? Okay. What is this? Why is this door not open? There's a big sort of thing in there, right? Okay. So the cows, good on you. Aye! I do this every so often, and then I'll get to Christmas, I'm like, I need to eat all the food. And then the next 6 months will be like, well, you know what? I still haven't eaten all the Christmas snacks, so technically it's still Christmas. And then, like, everyone's like, but you keep topping up. You keep buying more snacks and topping it up, and I was all, but as long as it never runs out, it doesn't count.
You want to go back to the center and regroup?
I don't think we need to. Or is there a boss? Is that what you're trying to tell me, Diana? That's one of them red doors. I don't want to go through there. I'll do that in my own time where I go back and do the red doors and unlock the other shizzle for my nizzle. But yeah, that's what the post in the Discord was about. Just fucking, you just feel it. Sometimes you get burnt out and you're just like, I don't want this stream, and then you feel bad about it.
You think the quakes caused this?
The makeup of the stuff is all wrong.
Do not enter.
Not like
Do
glue
not
filament.
enter.
Like it's corrupted or something? Must have been working.
But I noticed myself as well. I wasn't spending time in other people's streams as well as I should have.
Something special down
Yeah, Bloody man, sounds you doing it in a good way. You feel it coming though. I suppose you know yourself, Ian. Anybody who really streams, you can feel the burnout kind of hitting you. And the entire time me and Hook were doing the co-op streams, and I was doing like 4 nights a week. I don't know how you do it, Ian. Fair fuck lady. I was also keeping things healthy, being conscious. Got a phone call today about soon scheduled vasectomy appointment confirmed. Been comforting since. You'll be fine. It's grand. What was I saying? So a lot of people, streamers will know this very well, but you just look at the shiny-headed bastard. What a guy. AJ Watson coming on. AJ, I have to change your walk-on because you changed your name. How dare you change things? Big news, fair play to you, man. It does, Chrissy Poo. Good luck. GG. Oh, it still managed to get you. My bad. No. But saying that you're playing no game, sober to cry, undecided. I would say it's a burnout with yourself. You're great at talking about it. Yeah. When we were doing the co-op streams and I was doing 4 nights a week, I could feel it building up. And then you look at like Ian, and man does 4 days regularly every week, and you're like, fair fucks to you, man. I couldn't do it, but fair fucks to you. I am playing no game. That's that new game, isn't it? That's that new Bethesda Souls-like, isn't it? No game. Oh, I don't want to go down the hole.
Regulators down there?
Yeah, we have to go down the hole. This is like Silent Hill 2 all over again, just random holes, but at least this time we have jetpacks. Oh no, we're just falling right here, right? Okay. The main thing I think that is doing me well is I'm not just doing Resident Evil, because I think that would fuck me over. This is a nice wee breather for me. Transformers was good too.
That's what we're here for.
We can use that to free 8, right?
Yeah.
AJ, how are you getting on? And how's the Bambino? How is everything?
Hello, unregistered guests. Your presence here.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Managing to avoid it comes with several hard L's for getting with it in the past. However, yeah. Now, to be fair, I've had burnout that hit me worse than this time. Like, I missed 1 or 2 streams, that was about it. And even at that, you know, I had other stuff I was doing anyway, so it was easy enough to cancel. It's fucking massive, nearly 8 months old in a tank. Fucking rugby player, get him stuck in. Get him stuck in. Get him my protein. Steak and eggs only for him. Oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. This is a fucking Dark Soulsy looking bastard. AJ, it'll be old enough now that, you know, you can just get back to streaming and it'll be grand.
Okay. Take it out and grab the right.
Oh.
Back off.
He's not even looking at me. Oh, no, he still got me though. Still got me. Oh, look at that healing. Love it. Love to see it. Love to see it. I need to start jumping up. I need to hover. My internet download is currently 2 megabytes, so I'd struggle. Oh, no way! It's my current buffering issue. Right. Oh, it's a nightmare. Is it going to be fixed? Like, is there a solution in place? I don't think he likes it very much.
Be careful.
Right on.
Okay, 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 okay. I think I just need to keep my distance from him because I don't think I'm avoiding that very well. Darkstream is currently being delivered by a carrier pigeon, and it's the best way. It's old school. It's physical media. Actually, AJ, you might appreciate this wee one. Started collecting all the Final Fantasies physically now. Now, I've kind of cheated, and the first 6 are in the Pixel Remaster. But we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 2. We have 12. We have 13, 13, 2, 13, 3, and 15. So I just need 11, 14, and 16 for my collection of physicals. Even though 11 and 14, there's probably no point in having them physically, but it's nice to have the covers. Weirdly enough, Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns was the most expensive out of all of them. But it was... Blindbus was all, oh, go and Vinted and get games for a couple of £1 each, and I'm like, fucking class. Big fan. I'm currently downloading my boxes. Unloading your boxes and get the displays back up. Nice one. Nice one. Well, I thought it was... But now I'm wired and I have to contact them tomorrow. Get on them, man. Get it fixed. Get it sorted. But it was ever since Sony announced their movement away from physical media, and I'm like, you know what? I want all the Final Fantasies, and I got Metal Gear Solid. Vintage is dangerous for your bank accounts. It is, but like there's some brilliant deals. There's people selling stuff on there, and I don't think they know what they have sometimes. I think I got Final Fantasy 9 for like a $5. Look at the Umbrella transition. Yes! We mostly play Resident Evil at the moment, so that's why I have the Umbrella one. Because it was very much Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 5, and you were all in the one go. So I haven't changed it up yet. Like tonight was supposed to be Resident Evil 2 speedrun, but I just wasn't feeling it. You watch out for his tail. You don't own me. But them transitions are actually easy enough to make. It's just, if you go to the Zero Cash Tech, you know, the YouTube that me and Hook have. I'll plug it. Unplug it. Once I find it, yeah. We have a video on ProFinder, and a lot of it's free to use, and you can just upload images, and it'll make stinger transitions and stuff for you. So if you want customized stuff, you can do it either for really cheap or for free. Is this not Resi 2? It is. It is Resi 2. This is a speedrun. This is mods. This is mods. Maybe I should buy a copy of Final Fantasy 13.3 and make a fast profit on it. Well, I've already bought it, so you're not going to make a profit off me, Ian. Can't do it. That's what I mean. Some brilliant deals on it. Yep, 100%. Block that one from memory. Yeah, but you have to get it for the collection. Which we will upload soon. No, the ProFinder one's already done. Yeah, watch, I'll have a look. How are you finding the runs? Making any progress? Yeah, I think. No, it's not fucking any amazing pace, but we're down the... oh fuck, right, okay. We're down to... I can't believe I dodged that. I dodged it! We're down to 1 hour 16 minutes for Resident Evil 2 Remake. Nowhere near any sort of decent time, but we're making progress on it. Oh. Oh, everything kind of slowed down there. Oh, yes! What are you gonna do now, kiddo? Look at that! We're fucking Dark Souls in this son of a bitch. First Berserker Kazan, my arse. Let's go. Bad boys, what you want, what you gonna do now? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Oh, there we go.
Take this.
No, I mean new content. Yes, we did a video last week about... Fuck, I can't even remember now what it was about. But yeah, we're going to get back on it. That was part of my burnout, I think, as well, where I was feeling bad about not doing videos. And then I was kind of struggling as well, maybe to come up with topics for it, so... I'm going to get back into that too. Well, that's not good. If he made them mines himself, was it technically a Minecraft? Oh, right, okay. We're hacking the mines, Yes, let's go.
Right on.
Well done, Diana. Well done. Better do so. Never force it. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, we still get a lot of traction with it, which is nice, but it's one of them ones, I think, what did you say, it was evergreen, so no matter what, the topics will still always be relevant, so there's that. Oh, he got me that time. Oh, fuck. Fuck! Lamash, you dick! Fucking hell! This is why we can never have nice things. Sierra, I need you to hurt him. I need you to hurt him bad. Burnout? Get burnt out on that? Oh, you son of a bitch. So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about loop theory and how Silent Hill 2 not only heavily talks about loop theory, but Flemish himself has gone through and proved it. That's sort of barking like fuck. If it helps Lauren, it's barking like fuck. Boss, what's happening? Look at that. You always do that mine thing again.
Solid snake.
Real red looking moonlight. That's it. I must get out and have a wee look. Cleo, no, don't start. You've got your treats. Oh shit. I'm dead. You notice things were going really, really well there until Flemish fucked it up. I love that both Flemish and I look to try and see it.
This is the worst.
Mate, you're 100% right. Flemish is the worst. It's not my fault. You just need to see who's at the door. It is your fault that you waited until phase 3 of a boss fight to redeem some sort of jump scare, you son of a bitch. Right, boss, I see you're out playing Halo as well. How are you getting on with that? How are you finding it? I've heard a lot of good things. We're gonna upgrade our shit then before we go back out here. I need to give myself more HP. I'm lacking the old HP edge. We broke the game. Oh, Hook will not be happy about that. Don't be telling him you broke his fucking baby. Can't believe you broke the game. How dare you, sir? How did you break the game? Mods, hacking nodes, abilities. Where do I actually attach the nodes? Damn it! There's a giant robot spider. Get your priorities straight. I can't remember where I'm supposed to attach these.
New training sim data has arrived. Please come and see us again.
All 4 of us managed to glitch behind the map and couldn't get it, even reload the checkpoint, and oh, no way. That's only at the door as well, though. They'll fix that. Big grand. A big grand. If not, complain to Hook. Hook works for them, so if Hook doesn't fix it, complain to him about it. Never had any more of these. Right, okay, they're kind of separate. Where the fuck am I installing this thing now? Oh, it's when you go out the door. It's when you go out the fucking door. Confuse, multi-hack, decode. Temporarily increasing damage dealt. Yes. Oh, where would I have that? No. Equip node. This is no joke. Aggressive defense reduces damage received by 20% while aiming your weapon. That one's pretty good. Increases the hacking gauge build up. Cheap shot, precision shot. Performance increases hacking, no duration. I want this one. I want the reduced damage one. That seems pretty good. Close quarters. I'm not going to need that for this guy. Increases hacking range. Yes. Yeah, let's go with that. That looks good, doesn't it? Looks good. I managed a grenade glitch at death back onto the map, but then I tried to do new checkpoints, so we ended up behind the map again. Can you restart the level just as would that help? I am still yet to download it. What you want, what you want, what you want to do now, bad boys. What you gonna do?
When the garden keeper drops down on us, it almost makes me forget how to hack. It got
See,
right
look,
scurried up the wall.
she knows about it. So loop theory, You can also get rally points by checkpoints, so it's about half an hour back. That's not too bad. That's not too bad. I've had worse in games. The only thing now is I have 2 days in the office in a row, and it makes me sad. And it's at the end of the week. I'm going to collect weapons. You're an asshole. I've bumped my damage up. My health is up. We're doing a lot better. We're doing a lot better. No, no, we're not. I'm shit. I'm fucking shite. I don't know why I keep going for the one in the belly. I just feel like it's probably... It probably doesn't make any more damage than any other one, but I just feel like it's the one I want to get. His face scares me, and I don't want to shoot the tail because... Fuck that shit. I'd love a wee decoy one. That would help. Oh, you movie bastard. How dare you move? How dare you, sir? The audacity. The lion, the witch, and the audacity of this bitch. Oh, no. Oh, well, I'm right here. Get up, you. Get the fuck up.
How you like this?
Base shooter. Do you know what I thought was a really stupid name for a game? Do you remember Medal of Honor Warfighter? What the fuck is a Warfighter? Warfighter. Punch Manor. Warfighter. I don't think I ever even played that game. I don't know how well it was received. I just know, I seen the name and I was all, Medal of Honor, Warfighter, Man Shoot Gunner. I thought that, did Vin Diesel or something name this game? I need to get more weapons. Oh, fuck, no. I don't want you. There's one's over there. Fuck, right, okay. Photon laser. Oh, there we go. We're sucking diesel now, sir.
Take this.
Did I blow up his... Oh, his face grew back. His face grew back. Okay, okay, okay. Got this bullshit again. Talk about the bullshit. Okie dokie. This is a bit different. He's not doing the mines. Why is he not doing the mines? Let's go. Just do further hacks while I'm doing that. Oh, fuck, he got me. Shit, he really got me. Come on. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Heal up. Let's go, Hugh. Let's go. Daddy-o. Oh, he's doing his bullshit again. Right, okay. 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 Let him go. Let him go. Let him go. Sharks with frickin' lasers. Oh, fucking miney bastard. Right, let's go. Oh shit, right, okay, we're going completely the wrong way in it. Fuck! We gotta get it. We gotta get it. Oh, yes! You didn't think I was going to jump there, did you, you scorpion bastard? Get over here.
Right on.
Oh, fuck. He got me that time. He got me that time, though. I was overconfident. I did fuck up. Shit. Yeah, come on. Oh, yeah. Oh, you run. Night, everybody, except the scorpion bastard. Night, Teddy. Thank you very much for coming on, buddy. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. This is how she wears it. How who wears it? Demi Moore.
We got another shelter license key.
I'm on it.
We got new functions. We got new functions. Reboot the underground limb regulator. Don't know what that is, but cool. Let's go free this little girl. Little girl. Lunar filament regulator.
Now we can go help eat.
Yep. Let's go.
It's 'cause 7, 8, 9. Bum, 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 bum.
I can finally move again. Thank you. Are you okay?
Does 8 come back to our base now? Do we know?
Well, not yet, anyway. And there really is no more time to spare. I must stop Edis.
Hello, this is Edis.
Hello, Edis.
I have detected an unexpected loss of biomaterial in this sector. I will be sealing this area indefinitely. Have a wonderful day.
You gotta be kidding me. It's trying to trap us. We gotta get out of here.
But 8! Diana, give me your hand. I entrust this memory to you. With it, you will learn how to stop Edis. Take it and finish the task I started.
Oh no!
Hey, what are you doing? We gotta move.
We can do this. We are PRAGMATA.
Time's up. We're leaving.
Oh fuck, right, okay. We're gonna get her back though, aren't we? Is that good? We got the memory code.
A new destination has been added to the tram line. The lunar mines are now accessible.
Why is she running ahead? Lunar mines, okay.
Once we gear up, we're leaving to deal with you.
Oh, we're back at the base, that's why. Right, okay.
Shelter license key authenticated. New functions have been added.
Why do I need a license key? Why can't you just do this for me, brother? Like, end of the world, making me get these license keys. What have I done to my arm? Fuck, it's a wild bad rash.
REM replicator Sigma now online and ready to serve.
Okie dokie. I think we found something for
We left 8 all by herself.
Diana as well. A swing? Yes, let's go.
8 said Edis's mainframe is at the mines, right?
Oh, this is like a wee park area.
Have you ever played on one of these before?
I think I'm too big, kid. I think I'd break it. I'm a big boy. This is so fucking cool and wholesome.
Hey,
that's
Diana,
not where she
don't
was.
go launching yourself off the swing, okay?
Why not?
Because I broke my wrist doing that once.
Really? You broke it?
Yeah, I don't recommend it either. So I'm serious here. Watch it, alright?
Okay, Hugh. I'll be careful. Oh, yes.
Right, so that lets me know what ones are missing. Right, okay. What's the update? What's the update? What are we updating? New items can I be printed? Did I get new abilities though and attachments? Oh, I can just level these up even more. That's quite good. Nicely job. Shelter upgrade. Okie dokie. Right, so I need to sort them later. I think I need to get all the collectibles to get more suits. There's more to unlock, I just don't have them. And it looks to be 2 more for Diana. Update. What's this guy got?
Stamp board collection.
These stamp board added. Ooh. Oh, I really should be going for bingos.
One of our more popular items.
Right, okay.
Much appreciated.
You're welcome, buddy.
Oh, yeah. That thing.
What thing? What are we talking about? Oh, Diana, we've already looked at that like 2 seconds ago.
Suits here.
There's like
Just
2.
like yours.
So I need to do them separately as well.
We wish you a happy shelter life.
What about a Merry Christmas? No Merry Christmas. None for me. That's just the them. What is in here? Lockout controls manually unlock system before engaging power. What does that mean? What's that one all about? Right, so we have balloons here. We have a full, like, school sort of play area here. This looks to be sort of outdoors. I don't know what this one is. Oh, and we're collecting these on both sides. Right, okay.
Yeah, that thing.
We'll need to go back and find them as well.
I
Ooh, what's
hope
this?
the flower plants from the Terradome would probably all be wilted by now.
The Luna filament plants that grow on their own, yeah? They're way too delicate. Wouldn't
Way
stand a chance growing in
too
a shelter.
delicate.
Turns out REM flowers suit you just right.
I think so too.
Go team. That is feckin' adorable. Right, so the next thing is take the tram to the mines. Oh, my controller's messed up. And it's just my items, my hacked nodes. Okay, archives, system. We go for a wee quick shave, just in case I crash everything, which I'm known to do. Whoop, whoop, whoop. What I'm actually going to do now is, it is 20 to 11. I am in the office tomorrow. I'm in the office for the next 2 days. So I'm actually going to finish up now, because I think this is a good kind of point to finish, because I've just beat that boss, and I'm not moving on to the next area yet. So, going to play more of this tomorrow night. Really enjoying Pragmata. My god, the gameplay, the characters, so good so far. And then, once we finish Pragmata, it'll be on the Resident Evil 8 Village. So, that'll be good as well. I think I already have a raid target in mind at the moment. So, Ready Crash is back to streaming. He was off for a while because he was really unwell, and then he had a lot of technical issues. So, I'm going to raid him to Ready. Actually, no, you know what? I'm just looking. Our buddy, the Cloud Boss, is streaming as well. He's playing some Fallout. We're going to raid into the Cloud Boss. So he's an IRL friend of me in the Hook. And if he could be absolute legends and say hello to him and drop him a wee message, that'd be much appreciated. Drop a wee follow. I am going to pull up my raid message now at the moment, get the raid started. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow night, and I think the next night after that it's going to be Saturday. So we're going to see now if he's beat the boss. I don't think it's been beat tonight, but we're going to find out. Suck this raid up. I'm going to copy my own raid message because I always forget the name. Oh! Boss has been slain. Everybody goes up one level. Well done, folks. Nicely job. GG. Look at you go. So the boss will be a higher level. I'm going to remember to change the GIF. I'll do that now and change the actual boss as well. But going to raid in the Cloud Boss. And I will see you folks tomorrow night. And thank you very much again for coming on and chatting and all of the banter. These are absolute legends. And I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
The screen goes dark, but I still see your face. A trail of sparks where we ran through the place. The map is folded, the road is done.
I'm running round the house with my wee hatchet on me. Wee hatchet on me. Wee hatchet on me. Running round the